Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Kwamalak Yahushai. Double honors to the elect elders at the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Yahushai. A hearty shalom to you, mighty men that go out there and labor and do the work of the Most High, presenting your body as a living sacrifice and doing all things for the elect's sake, pushing this truth and magnifying the ministry. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive, being diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, Esther, Judith, and the list goes on and on. Shalom to everybody tuning in live, Natasha, Law, Israelite Princess B, J Pipes, Crown Blue Royal, Lion of Judah, Levite Warrior, 17, Malak Yara'ah, Tori N, Yasha Ali United, and everybody else I didn't salute. Right, it's WFI, rapid fire Q&A. We're going through the precepts. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 15 and 28. Right, and if there are any questions, right, hey, feel free. We're going to dive into these questions. Most High willing, this could be edifying, and somebody may ask a question that you may not have the understanding of, or you may just learn something off the spirit. Right, you may not have even thought to ask the question, but one man's question is another man's edifying. So this Proverbs chapter 15 and 28. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. So the heart of a righteous man, he's going to study to answer. You understand, to be able to go into the precepts, go into the breakdowns, and make things profitable for those who seek learning. Like the Lord tell you in Surety, the 33rd chapter. Well, let's get this in Ecclesiasticus chapter 33 and verse 17. It reads, consider that I labor not for myself only, but for all them that seek learning. See that? So we're not here to labor for ourselves. No man that studies and reads and prays, fasts to keep the commandments. Yeah, I mean, you're doing it for your salvation to be delivered, but it's really not for yourself. Right? It's for all those who seek learning. That's why when you read up in verse 16, it reads, I awaked up last of all, as one that gathered after the grape gatherings. And by the blessing of the Lord I profited and filled my wine press like a gather of grapes. And you have to gather grapes. Now the grapes is this knowledge, the precepts, right? You gather the words, the information, the instruction, and then it's what turned into wine. But you don't gather those grapes for yourself just to drink wine. You out there laboring, you're studying, you're getting the information and the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding so that others may drink wine as well, and come into this thing. So let's go to the precepts. I'm going to go in chronological order, right? From Itzeli, Shalom. How is it 10 tribes and 1 Kings 11 and 31? If there's 3 tribes for southern, is that because of 2 Chronicles 11 and 14, or Levi always been southern? Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 11 and 31. Right? I should have did it on StreamYard while I posted the questions and everybody can see them. But man's groans are the Lord. Right? So this 1 Kings chapter 11 and 31. It reads, and he said to Jeroboam, right now this is Ahijah the prophet talking to Jeroboam, right? And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus said the Lord, the God of Israel. Salakia. It reads, behold, bear with me 1 second. It reads, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon and will give 10 tribes unto thee. So when it says I will give 10 tribes unto thee, right? If you're looking at the 12 tribes chart, everybody should know the 12 tribes chart, right? You have your southern kingdom. Now this is the leading steps to the kingdom being divided. You understand? So you have Judah and you have Benjamin. Now Levi really wasn't necessarily considered allotted amongst the tribes. So you had other tribes, right? You had Dan, you had Naphtali, you had Gad, you have Asher, you have Issachar, you have Zebulun, you have Reuben, right? You have Simeon, and you have Ephraim, right? Or was that 9? And you have I believe I named it. I might be missing one, right? Ephraim and Manasseh, right? That's 10, right? Those are your 10. Now you had your other 2. You had Benjamin and you had Judah. Levi really wasn't allotted because remember, Levi didn't have a portion. That's why it says 10 tribes, right? Now they didn't have an inheritance. Let's get that in Deuteronomy chapter 10, right? That's why. There's Deuteronomy chapter 10 and 9. And then later in the process of time, Levi came down, as you mentioned, you went to the precept in 2 Chronicles 11. Later in process of time, Levi had an allegiance with the kings of Judah and with the southern kingdom, and they became the Jews in process of time. And that's history that everybody should know. Everybody should know how the kingdom was divided and split. So 10 tribes was given to Rehoboam, and I named those tribes from Dan to Simeon, right? Or Reuben to Simeon, however you want to go about it. But you had 2 other tribes. You had Benjamin and you had Judah, right? Now let's read Deuteronomy chapter 10 and 9. It reads, wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. The Lord is his inheritance, according as the Lord thy God promised him. So the inheritance of the children of Levi is the Most High, right? Let's go to the book of Joshua. So when the land was divided by lot, like I said, let me see if I can pull this, right? Well, I'll see if I have it on the back of my Bible. If you can look up, usually on the back of a Bible, you have an atlas, you can go into it, but it'll give you the portions of the tribes, right? You'll see the portions of the tribes: Simeon, Judah, Reuben, Gad, Ephraim, Manasseh, and you'll see the different lands. But for you brothers who don't know, Levi doesn't have a particular land. And you say, well, where's Levi on there? They're the priests. Well, that's why it's important to go back and read the law to understand that the children of Levi, the Most High was their inheritance, right? And they wasn't given a portion. They actually dwelt in the suburbs and received the tithe. The tithes are the 10% increase of every Israelite, right? So I want to go to the book of Joshua, right? I want to go to the book of Joshua, and I want to go to the 13th chapter, right? Bear with me. So this is the book of Joshua, chapter 13, and I believe I want verse 14, right? Joshua chapter 13 to 14. It reads, only unto the tribe of Levi, right? Only unto the tribe of Levi he gave non-inheritance. That's why when I showed you on the map, you didn't see Levi on there, right? Joshua 13 to 14. Only unto the tribe of Levi he gave non-inheritance. The sacrifices of Yahweh, Bashmi Yahushai, God of Israel, made by fire are their inheritance, as he said unto them. And he told them that from the time of Exodus, right? So them doing the priestly works and the animal sacrifices, that was their portion. That's what the word Levi means. The word Levi in the Hebrew is a lawyer, which means joined unto, or he is joined unto me, right? Because Leah, when she bare Levi, she assumed that Jacob, or she said, now Jacob, my husband, is joined unto me. You see that? But ultimately, it was prophetic. She prophesied, knowingly or unknowingly, that son Levi would be joined to the Most High and his descendants, right? Let's go to Joshua chapter 21. Let's get another precept. So again, the brother's question for those tuning in is, it says, Shalom, how is it 10 tribes in 1 Kings 11 and 31? How is it 10 tribes? If there's 3 tribes for the southern, is that because of 2 Chronicles 11 and 14, or Levi always been southern? Levi hasn't always been considered southern kingdom, right? Now, in process of time, they did. There was no southern northern kingdom, right? Until you had this division after the death of Solomon. But let's go to Joshua. We back in Joshua. Joshua chapter 21 and verse 40. It reads, so all the cities for the children of Merari by their families, which were remaining of the family of the Levites, were by their lot 12 cities. Check this out, Joshua 21 and 41. All the cities of the Levites within the possession of the children of Israel were 48 cities with their suburbs. These cities were every one with their suburbs round about them. Thus were all their cities. And the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he swore to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it, and they dwelt therein. See that? So the Lord had the children of Levi dwelling in the suburbs amongst the children of Israel, right? But something happened, right? I'm not going to read the entire book of First Kings to you, but you'll find out that when Jeroboam disannulled the priesthood and disallowed the Levites from performing the priestly sacrifices, and even made his own high holy day to contend with the Most High's holy day of the Feast of Tabernacles. So all of the Levites said, hold on, you don't want us to be the priests? And we're going to go to who? We're going to go where we're needed, for lack of better terms. And they went and had an allegiance with the children of Judah, right? Because the sons of David always dealt with the Levites, and they knew that, right? So let's go to 2 Chronicles 11, right? And that's during the time of Rehoboam, right? So let's go to 2 Chronicles 11. And instead of starting at 14, I really want to start at let's start at 13, right? This 2 Chronicles chapter 11. I'm gonna start at 1, but then I'm gonna jump down. So this 2 Chronicles 11 and 1. It reads, and when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he gathered up the house of Judah and Benjamin 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors to fight against Israel, that he might bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam. So Rehoboam, he's the king of Judah. Remember, he's the son of Solomon, the grandson of David, and he gathered 180,000 men with the children of Benjamin. So you got Judah and you got Benjamin, right? But let's jump down. This is during the same time of Ahijah and the same time of Jeroboam. 2 Chronicles 11 and 13. And the priests and the Levites that were in all Israel resorted to him out of all their coasts. So the Levites, like I showed you on the map, right? Pull it up again. They lived amongst all of the different tribes, right? So like they lived amongst all of the different tribes. So they left their inheritance, right? And where did they go? It reads, for the Levites left their suburbs and their possession and came to Judah and Jerusalem, for Jeroboam and his sons had cast them off from executing their priest's office unto the Lord. And he ordained him priest for the high places and for the devils and for the calves which he had made. Right? So there you have it. All right, so let's move on to the next question. From law, do you have to go out and teach in order to be saved? Let's go to 2 Esdras. Right? Do you have to go out and teach in order to be saved? This 2 Esdras, let the Most High be true, right? And every man a liar. 2 Esdras 9 and 7. And every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed. You see that? So everyone that's going to escape and be saved is what? They're going to escape by their works and by their faith. So the works, initially, they go back to keeping the commandments, right? So those are the works. Now, the commandments aren't just can't eat pork, grow your beard out, keep the Sabbath day. You have commandments all throughout the Bible, right? Now, we understand that every man is not able to go out there and teach because everybody's not a teacher. Right? You have different offices of administration, but through the same spirit, right? But let's get that in 1 Chronicles 12. 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, right? This 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it's like Satan trying to hinder the word. This 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 4. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. So you have the different gifts that the Most High gave men. Certain men, they can actually go out there and teach. They can go through the breakdowns, go prophesy, go out there and make the word known to the people. They can do that, right? So you have diversities of gifts, but you really have the same Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is what's going to, Salaki, bear with me. The Holy Spirit is what's going to guide you to magnify your gift. You understand? So you have certain brothers, they're powerful readers. You have brothers, they're excellent counselors. You have brothers who are good at charity, giving alms. Everybody has a different gift. So you may be out there, you may be part of the elect, but every brother in the elect, he may not necessarily be a teacher. Now, we don't know how the Most High is going to set up the 144,000, right? But we do know that not every brother that's part of the 1/3 is going to be a teacher. Why? Because you have different, as we go through this chapter, which I'm not going to read this entire chapter, you can read it on your own. You'll hear about diversity of administrations. You'll hear about helps, even governments, people that help organize things, right? You have helps, people that may bring water, right? They may make camp signs, give brothers garments, right? Whatever the case may be, right? These are all righteous works in the eyes of the Lord. Now, if you're a man that's apt to teach and you know the scriptures, but you refuse to go out there on highways and byways, now there's a problem, right? Let's go to Luke chapter, because you may have went out there and the only way for you to know that you're not a teacher is to go out there and see if that thing is, if that's your gift or not. How are you going to know if you're a teacher if you never attempt to teach, right? It will make no sense. Well, I know I'm not a teacher. Well, brother, get off the couch, brother. There's plenty of brothers who thought that they would never be teachers. Hell, I didn't know that I would teach. Then you go out there and the Most High put the Spirit on you, So that's why you have this. Let's go to Luke chapter 14 and verse 23. Right? This is the book of St. Luke, chapter 14 and 23. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out unto the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. So that's our job, to go out into the highways and the hedges. Go out there into the streets, really the chief concourse, and win souls for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Right? That's our job. Right? Nothing more, nothing less. So if you're not going out in the highways and byways, then you're not following the commandments of Yahushua. Ultimately, that's from Yahweh B'Shem Mashiach Wamalak Yahushua. Now, going out in the highways and byways, you don't necessarily have to teach. You could be a reader. You got brothers that just read all day. You got brothers that hold posts. You got brothers that bring incense. You got brothers that bring water. You got brothers that hand out flyers. You have people that just call people in. You got brothers that just call people in. You got brothers that hold the camp signs, tall and high and mighty. You have many different functions in the body at camp. So you can't say, well, I'm not a teacher. I can't go out and do the work. Well, brother, you have a different gift that may profit the ministry, All right, so let's move on to the next question. All right, from MJ Israel. From Shalom Nakom, Shalom. What does that a double tongue mean in Sirach 5 and 9? Right? Let's go to Sirach 5 and 9. What is that double tongue? Right? This is Sirach chapter 5 and 9. Winnow not with every wind, and go not into every way, for so doth the sinner that hath a double tongue. So when the Lord said, winnow not with every wind, it means be steadfast, be focused. Winnowing with every wind, meaning you're all over the place. You're tossed to and fro, right? 1 minute, the Immaculate Conception sounds good. You went and followed that wind. Then the next minute, the virgin birth, which pretty much the same thing, that sounds good. Then the next minute, you're into astrology. And the next minute, you want to incorporate the Quran into the truth. Then the next minute, what else sounds good to you? That homosexuality is okay. So you're winnowing with every wind. Everything sounds good. You're just blowing with the wind. You ever see a garbage bag being on some minute, it's flying over here, then it kind of fly over here. There's no foundation. Double-minded man. Let me get that in James 1 and 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Right? James 1 and 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So that's plain. A man that can't decide to go right or go left, so he decides to go right this day, then left this day, then north this way. That's a man winnowing with every wind. The Lord even calls certain winds doctrines. Right? This Ephesians, let's go to Ephesians chapter 4. Right? Ephesians chapter 4 and 14. It reads, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. You see that? So you have certain men who intentionally and strategically premeditate certain doctrines just to deceive you. They'll switch up a word here. right? They'll stop here. They won't complete the rest of the verse. They'll make a doctrine off of this. They'll go. You can't do that. That's the sleight of men of cunning craftiness. Now, when the Lord said, winnow not with every wind and go not into every way, that's the same thing. For so that the sinner that hath a double tongue. So a double tongue pretty much is a backbiter, right? They go every way. 1 minute, they're telling you, hey, Ak, I love you. The next minute, they go behind your back, I hate this nigga, right? Then over here, they say, well, this guy is really not that bad. Then that's a double tongue, a forked tongue, like the so-called white man, right? The so-called white man has a double tongue, right? 1 minute, the so-called white man, you know, he say, hey, look, I'm here for peace. Just show me how to live off the land. It's a harsh winter last year. You guys have been here. Show us how to do A, B, and C. Then the next minute, he's with the other devils saying, all right, let's cough in these blankets, give them smallpox, give them tuberculosis, influenza, varicella, the bubonic plague, and just kill them all. That's a double tongue, right? Let's get a precept. Go to Surety chapter 21 and 25. Right? And the same way a man is going every way, it's how people gossip and murmur and whisper. 1 minute they're in this ear. Hey, did you hear that so-and-so and so-and-so? They're A, B, and C. Then they over here. Did you hear so-and-so? Then they're making a post on Facebook. That's evil, man. You know? Surety 21 and 25. The lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them. But the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance. So you got people that run their mouth over stuff that have nothing to do with them. You see what kind of car he got? Yeah, I heard that he had a flat. And hey, brother, that has nothing to do with you, man. You got people, you got men, they're gossipers, busybodies in other men's matters, whisperers, backbiters, slanderers, you know. Verse 26, Surety 21 and 26. The heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. So the heart of a fool in his mouth, a fool is going to utter everything in his mind. Anything that come to mind, he's going to utter it. And the Lord said, in the multitude of words, there wanteth not sin. So the more you talk and the more you run your mouth, the more liable you are to say something foolish and be judged for your words. But the mouth of the wise is in their heart, meaning they're not going to speak everything on their mind. The Lord said, a wise man holdeth his tongue. Right? Let's get one more precept on that. Then we'll move on to the next question. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 28 and verse 13. Curse the whisperer and double-tongued. See that? For such have destroyed many that were at peace. So a double tongue is going to tell you. A backbiting tongue. And that hurts. If somebody literally bites your back, hey, man, that's painful, man. It's up close and it's personal. Now, a backbiter, somebody, again, they say stuff about you behind your back, right? To harm you, to inflict pain on you, right? Curse the whisperer and double-tongued, for such have destroyed many that were at peace. A backbiting tongue hath disquieted many and driven them from nation to nation. Strong cities hath been pulled down and overthrown the houses of great men. And you got certain men have to literally up and leave, man. You may have a rumor spread about a brother at his job, then he get fired, and he's not able to afford his house. So he has to leave that state. Then he has to move. And then he got to pack his family up. And he got to tell his kids, hey, you can't see your friends anymore. And he got to go somewhere, man. And that backbiter to have a brother, damn, moving all over the place, man. You can't really stay in one place if you always got somebody slandering your name. You got to always tell them, no, it wasn't you, and that's not me. Then it's got, that's a horrible sin. So the same way that a man goes into every way as a man that runs his mouth all over the place. All right. From Itzeli, next question. Can you explain can you explain Romans 1 and 20 Godhead? Let's deal with it. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 1, and verse 20. Right? Romans chapter 1 and 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So what this is going into is you have the brothers that were living in Rome. Now the Apostle Paul is about to condemn them for idolatry and following the lust of their heart. And they went and they knew about the Most High, but they ended serving idols. Now, it's going to tell you this. I'm going to start at 19 and give you the context, right? Romans 1 and 19. Because that which may be known of the Most High is manifest in them, for the Most High hath shown it unto them. So the Most High showed man how to live. The Most High gave you the laws, gave you the commandments, and nobody's going to be able to have an excuse to say, well, I didn't know how to serve the Lord. People are, they damn have rabbit's foot, lucky horseshoes. They throw salt over their shoulders. They have statues they bow down to, idols. But the Most High showed you the law, statutes, and commandments. It's manifest. But a lot of people don't know it. You might have walked past a servant to the Lord, man. Those just niggers out there. I don't have to listen to them. And the Lord showed you. Right? You might have bypassed the Israelite video, man. I don't want to watch that. I want to watch this, that, and the third instead. You know? So the Most High is showing you his handiwork, and that he is the Most High, and he's making it manifest. But a lot of people expect the Most High to come off the throne and appear to you. You know, I was talking to some people today at camp, and they said, well, I really can't believe the Most High because I don't see him. Well, the Most High is not going to manifest himself to you on that level. You know, the Most High is going to manifest himself through his works. Right? But let's read on. Verse 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. So you can look at the sun, the moon, the stars. You understand? You can see, like I said, the blood moon, man growing in the truth, creatures, ants, and look at the works of the Most High and know, hey, look, Yahweh Shah made these things. How you cut yourself and you heal, and different you got organisms who regenerate, right? People, you got animals, they break their tail off and their tail grows back. You got certain creatures that eat their arm off, and certain creatures, they can turn invisible. You got Venus flytraps. You got all types of stuff the Most High made, man. All these works, you got wildfires, tornadoes. Hey, the Lord did that. So, I mean, who else did it? You know, the invisible things from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. Now, when it says eternal power and Godhead, that's talking about the spirit that the Most High uses to manifest his works and his authority, right? Like I tell you in the book of Colossians, I believe that's Colossians, right? Let me get this precept real quick, right? This is the book of Colossians, chapter 1, and bear with me. All right, I have to get this precept real quick. So that's what that word, and I'm going to actually go into that in the Greek, right? After I get this real quick, right? This is Colossians chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Meaning Yahweh Shah was given a spirit without measure. The Godhead just represents the Most High's power, right? And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power. So out of all of the spirits that the Most High made, Yahweh Shah is omnipotent. That's the eternal Godhead, right? That's not given to Michael the Archangel. It's not given to Uriel. It's not given to the spiritual demon Satan. That's why Yahweh Shah could forgive sins on the earth. And Yahweh Shah tell you in John the 3rd chapter, he was given a spirit without measure, right? So that's what that Godhead is going into. Now I want to get this in Acts chapter 17 and verse 27, right? Acts 17 and 27. That they should seek the Lord, if happily they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us, right? This Paul talking to the men in Areopagus or Mars Hill, right? The Epicureans, the Stoics, the different philosophers, and persuading them about the Lord. Acts 17 and 28. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of the Most High, we ought not to think that the Godhead is likened to gold or silver or stone graven by art and man's device. So you can't think that the power of the Most High can be summed up as an idol. Now, this is the word Godhead in the Greek.
Strong's G 2304. Thyos. Thyos.
Right? If you got a concordance, it's 2304. Now it says divinity, divine, Godhead. Right? Now, what Christianity, now they're going off. That says spoken of the only and true God, Trinity. See how they said? See, they'll have you believe it's the Trinity, but that's not what the word Godhead is going into. It's just going into the omnipotency of the Most High. Let's go to Revelation chapter 5. Let's get a precept on the Most High using Yahweh Shai, right, with the eternal Godhead. Right? This is Revelation chapter 5 and verse 6. Right? Revelation chapter 5 and 6. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts stood a lamb, which is Yahweh Shai, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High sent forth into all the earth. So Yahweh Shai having 7 horns and 7 eyes, that's also going into his omnipotency or that eternal Godhead. 7 eyes meaning he has complete dominion over the 7 spirits and all of the angels. 7 horns meaning omnipotent. The word omnipotent meaning all strength. Right? He has all the strength and power given to him by the Most High. Right? That's why I tell you in Philippians chapter 2, right? And this is a verse that Christians don't understand, but we'll read it. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5. It reads, let this mind be in you, which was also in Hamashiach Yahushua, who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High. Not that Yahushua is the Heavenly Father, but Yahushua had the power on the earth to do things that the Heavenly Father could do. Like I said, so that's why they charged him for blasphemy. But he's the word of the Most High. You see that? So it says, who being in a form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High, but made himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of man. So the Most High sent Yahushua down in the likeness of man with the eternal power and Godhead as if he was in the third heaven. You know, and I want to get one more on that. This is John, the 3rd chapter, right? This is the book of John, and I kind of paraphrased it, but I'm going to read it, then we'll move on. This is the book of John, chapter 3, and verse, let's see where I want to start, 33. John chapter 3 and 33. He that hath received his testimony hath set to his seal that the Most High is true. For he whom the Most High hath sent, which is Yahweh Shai, speaketh the words of the Most High. For the Most High giveth not the Spirit by measure unto him. So Yahweh Shai don't have the Spirit by measure. He's limitless, for lack of better terms. That's why I tell you in John, the 21st chapter, there are so many things that Yahweh Shai did that if they were written in a book, the world itself cannot contain it. You know? So let's move on. For Miss Judah. Is it a sin to participate in the atonement if pregnant? I barely can go 5 hours without eating. Now, let's go to the book of Judges, chapter 5 and 11, right? Now, we know certain women, they kept the Day of Atonement and they were pregnant. And I know certain women, you know, they really couldn't, you know. It all depends on the spirit the Most High give you and your health situation. If you have like health issues or whatever the case may be, then that's what mercy and grace is about, right? But if you know you can keep it, then keep it, right? This Judges chapter 5:11. And we know that's difficult being pregnant, you know, especially women that nurse, women that are pregnant. That's a different situation, right? But I do want to read this. This is Judges chapter 5 and 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. So it's about rehearsing the righteous acts. You know, we're not going to get everything perfect. And we have this weak body, you know, this corruptible body. There may have been a time where our women may have not even had that problem being pregnant, right? And men, you know, fasting for one day, it damn near kill a man now. But back in the ancient world, you were healthier. You didn't eat all of this processed food, all these chemicals. You understand? You didn't have all these damn. When we came out, we got stuck with all of the damn needles and all of the poison inside of us. So we're a lot more corruptible. So things that we want to do in the spirit, you know, it's not where it used to be in the ancient times, you know. So we're doing our best. We're rehearsing the righteous acts, right? But this is Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 8. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of the Most High, not of works, lest any man should boast. So I would pray, you know, if you have like a physician or whatever, you know, I would pray to Yahweh Bashmi, I would shy, I would consult and get counsel. You understand? Then I would go about if I can do it or not, you know. Next question from Malak Yara'ah. Damn, they had me skip the question. Let me see if I can go back. Are we back? Salakia. All right, from Malak Yara'ah. And the time of Isaiah chapter 4 and 1, will brothers still have to do their diligence and court sisters in that time? You're not going to be thinking about that. Your mind is going to be in a completely different place. Now, I'll say this. It all depends on what you're not going to have time. You're not going to have time. You know, let's go to Isaiah 4 and 1. I'll say that you're not going to have time, right? Isaiah chapter 4 and 1, because it takes months, sometimes even years to court a sister. It all depends on the spirit, right? This is Isaiah chapter 4 and 1. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. See that? So in that day, 7 women are going to take hold of one man. And they're not going to really know the ins and outs of that guy. They're not going to want to know his bank account, what he used to do, what his job was, does he have a degree, how much money he makes. All that stuff is not going to matter. Right now, that stuff kind of matters, right? How much money you make. Oh, you can't afford me. What kind of car you drive? First of all, nobody's going to really be driving cars in those days. Gas, you're not going to have gasoline, right? If you got an electric car and it's an EMP attack, hey, forget about it. So the woman's primary focus in that day, in that time, hey, I'm just looking to make it, which should be a woman's primary focus all the time, but it's going to be that much more dire and severe. They're going to be stressed out, and they're going to be beat down, bruised, you understand? Mentally, distraught. I may have seen traumatic things that they have never seen, experienced things that they've never experienced. So them trying to get to know a man and what his financial status is and who he knows and what he drives, that don't matter. They just want to make it out of here. And they're going to know through the inspiration of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua that the only way for them to make it out of here is to be with a man of the Lord. That's why they said, hey, look, we'll even deny our womanly functions, such as providing, food and so for you. We'll do it ourselves. We'll eat our own bread, wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name. And what makes a woman called by your name? When you marry her, just to take away their reproach. So a man can take away the reproach of a woman, a righteous man, not a nigger man. Now, this man, I'm led to believe he's not going to have 10 months to sit there and prove that system. No, because everybody's going to be in a different mindset back then. People, let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 16. People are going to be looking to survive, man. And a lot of women, I'm going to just wait till Jacob's trouble. Then I'm going to be one of the 7 women to get me in, man. But right now, I'm going to live it up. You might not make it to that time. You might, who's to say you're going to make it to the time of you even having the ability to make it, man, to get a man, But let me get this in 2nd Esdras, chapter 16 and verse 35. It reads, hear now these things and understand them, ye servants of the Lord. Behold, the word of the Lord, receive it. Believe not the gods of whom the Lord spake. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack. So the Lord said, receive the words, meaning everything that's previously listed. You read about the famine, pestilence, and war shall the bridegrooms be destroyed, and the others that escape the sword shall perish of hunger. 2 in the city, 3 in the field, people hiding in the clefts of the rock. All hell gonna be breaking loose. So no, a man is not really gonna have time to prove one to the woman, man. You know. So let's move on. Lion of Judah asked about Proverbs 11 and 15. Let's deal with it. Right? This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 15. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hateth suretyship is sure. So surety is pretty much, it goes into the financial side of picking up, or pretty much, I would say being like a sponsor, or pretty much trying to pay someone debts, or being able to cover someone in financial need, or being able to look out for somebody in hard times. That's what suretyship is. So it says, he that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it. Pretty much, if you want to be a damn fool and invest, I would say you got a random Edomite come up to you, and then you say, look, I'm gonna put $2,000 on you for this Edomite. I'm gonna give you $2,000, and I want to get my money back, or I want you to double that in a week. And he says, okay, I got it. Right now, if he comes back and he doesn't have that thing, you got to deal with it. He's dealing with a stranger. He probably robbed you. He took the money and sold it for dope, crack, gave it to another Edomite. So if you want to invest your affairs into the wealth of a stranger, eventually you're going to pay for it, because the stranger's not going to have your best interest at heart. Now, when you go into this word, let's go into that in the Hebrew, right? That's why it says in the next latter part of that verse, and he that hateth suretyship is sure. Meaning, if you hate investing and gambling and going into covering people's financial woes and being a sponsor, hey, you'll be sure, you'll be all right. But if you into that thing and trying to make it big, then you might, you're going to have some problems. Right? You're going to have desperate problems. Right? So when it says that word smart for it, if you have a concordance, you can look it up. It's H7321. It means to shout or raise a cry. You understand? So pretty much you're going to be catching hell. All right? That's why it tells you in Esther. I want to get this precept. Let's go to the book of Esther, Salakia. Let's go to Esther chapter 10 and verse in regular Esther. Right, not additions of Esther. This is regular Esther chapter 10 and verse 3. For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. So you want to seek the wealth of your own people, not of a stranger. All right, from Idzeli, who or how was the account of heaven recorded in the book of Job? Well, you had scribes that wrote these things down, right? Different men, scribes, and prophets that wrote that down, right? Is it off to, from MJ Israel, is it off to pray to Yahushua? Yes, it's off to pray to Yahushua, right? Hey, didn't Yahushua say this in John 4? Right? And the Lord said, after this manner, therefore, pray ye. In Matthew chapter 6. Our Father. So Yahushua didn't say, after this manner, therefore, pray ye. Yahushua, thou son of the Most High. No, he said, our Father. All your prayers are to Yahweh in the name of Yahushua. Right? Now, I want to go to John chapter 4 and verse. Let's start at 23. It reads, but the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. The Most High is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So you pray to Yahweh, but in the name of his son Yahweh Shah. Right? Let's go to Matthew, the 4th chapter. Right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. All your prayers have to be in the name of Yahweh Shah. If they're not in the name of Yahweh Shah, your prayer is probably not getting heard. I don't have to even go too deep into that. Right? Salakia. This is Matthew chapter 4 and verse 10. Then said Yahweh Shah unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. That's plain. So you worship the Most High, him only shalt thou serve. Right? Now, let's go to the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 2 and 5. Right? 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 5. It reads, for there is one God and one mediator between God and men, that man, Hamashiach Yahushua, who gave himself a ransom for all to be testified in due time. So you have one God, which is the Heavenly Father, and one mediator between God and man. That mediator is Yahushua. He's the intercessor, or the one that brings you to the Heavenly Father. When you're repenting, acknowledging your sins, confessing your faults, all to the Father, you can't do that without the advocate, right? The advocate is your attorney, right? That's what the word advocate means. The word ad, going back to the Latin, meaning to or towards, and vocet goes back to the Latin vocare, which meaning to call. So there are people that are sent to call onto someone else on your behalf. That's what an advocate is, right? Now, let's go to 1 John 2 and 1. Right, let's get another precept on that. So you, of course, you're not praying to Yahweh Shah, but you're praying to Yahweh in the name of his son Yahweh Shah. Right? And let's get this precept, then we'll move on. Right? This is the book of 1 John, chapter 2, and verse 1. My little children, these things write I unto you, that ye sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahweh HaMashiach, the righteous. And he is the propitiation for our sins. And not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. Meaning not just that church, but also the entire nation of Israel. So Yahweh Shah, he's the advocate. And we bring that precept, that Greek definition a lot. Right? That Greek definition for advocate, we'll pull it up again for those who may not know. Right? It reads, it means a lawyer. Right? Someone consulting on legal affairs. Right? You have an advocate. If you do sin, let's say you accidentally buy on the Sabbath and you forgot for some strange reason, or you went off and did A, B, and C, right? Guess what? You can repent. Why? Because you have an advocate.
Strong's G 3875. Parakletos. Parakletos.
Right? Parakletos. That word advocate, it says an intercessor, consoler. It reads one who pleads another's cause before a judge, a pleader, counsel for defense, legal assistant, and advocate. You see that? So that's your attorney, for lack of better terms. So when you go off and Most High is about to judge you, Yahweh Shah said, hey, hold on, look, he repented in the name of me, and here's my blood covering his sin. And the Most High is about to bring the gavel down, and before he bring the gavel down, it's okay, look, well, hey, we're just going to judge him. Angel, go make him get into a little accident real quick. Right? So these things happen, man. Instead of you getting put to death, guess what? You can repent for that. All right, next question. From Ban Yawasap, House of Manasseh. When Zechariah chapter 12, 11 through 14 comes to pass in the second wilderness, will we be united with our families from our past lives? Is that what the passage insinuates? Let's go to Zechariah chapter 12 and 11. Let's deal with it. Right? Let's go to Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 11. Right? This is the book of Zechariah chapter 12 and 11. It reads, and that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadad Ramah in the valley of Megiddo. And we know that great mourning came from what? When King Josiah died. Right? You can read about that in 2 Chronicles as well as 2 Kings. And we had a great mourning, right, for one of our kings. But this mourning is going to be about 10 times more because it's not for Josiah, but for a living king, right? Hamashiach wa Malak Yahushua. You understand? The Son of the living God, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, the Prince of life, right? And we're going to be in the wilderness, and you're going to see Yahushua. You're going to look at Yahushua. You're going to see him face to face. That's why let's read verse 10, right? Zechariah chapter 12 and 10. It reads, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, or that's the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me, whom they have pierced. You're going to look upon Yahushua. Right now, we see the Lord through the word. We see him through the pages, but you're actually going to see Yahushua. I'm not talking about a dream. I'm not talking about some old, poor, homeless Jake who, he might look like the Lord. No, I'm talking about actually the Mashiach Yahushua, man. He's going to be there in the second wilderness, right? Moses was there in the first wilderness as the mediator. You understand? Yahushua is going to be there in the second wilderness. You know, it reads, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Why? Because the Jews delivered up Yahushua to be pierced, right? And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. So we're going to be crying. Imagine your firstborn son, right? Hey, the Most High gave up his firstborn son, man. Right? That can affect anybody, man. Your firstborn son dying, you crying, you weeping, you mad. And we're going to be, I don't even know the word. I was going to say in our feelings, but that's an understatement. We're going to damn near, that crying when you can't breathe and that ball in your throat and your nose running and your eyes puffy and he red and, you need some. That's how we're going to be when we see Yahushua. You're not going to dap up the Lord like this, right? The Lord, hey, come here, shot. And the Lord say, hey, look, I'm back. What did this? It's not going to work like that, man. We're going to have our head down because we're going to remember all of the things that we used to do. And the Lord going to put that all in our mind. We're going to say, look, we don't even deserve to be here, But let's read on to verse 11, Zechariah 12 and 11. And that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem. I read that already. Salaki, Zechariah 12 and I'll read 11 again, right? Because I had to jump up to 10. So this is Zechariah 12 and 11. And that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadad-Raman in the valley of Megiddo. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart, the family of the house of Nathan apart, and their wives apart, the family of the house of Levi apart, and their wives apart, the family of Shemaiah apart, and their wives apart. So these are the different classes of Israelites, man, right? These aren't just going to be the only families mourning, but this pretty much sums up everybody's respective lot, right? From the top of people that served the Most High during the house of David to the people who rebelled against the house of David, who barely made it. So that's what that represents. The house of David is the cream of the crop, for lack of better terms. They're going to mourn first, right? Then you have the house of Nathan apart. Now, the house of Nathan, he was with the house of David, but he represents pretty much those are the prophets and the rest of the men. They may not be as elite as David, but they're still going to mourn too. And under Nathan, you got the Levites, which represents the priests. And the other men, they're going to mourn too. And under them is the house of Shemaiah part. And if you read about Shemaiah was casting rocks at David, said, thou bloody man. But guess what? He's still in this thing because the Most High had mercy on him. But that's symbolic also for the Israelites that are least in the kingdom. So you're going to have those that are greatest in the kingdom and those that are least in the kingdom. It's not necessarily talking about your family from your past life, because you are your family from your past life. So whoever made it with you in your household, that is your family from your so-called past life, if you will. But in terms of people that were of the world, they're not going to be in the second wilderness, right? They're going to come in due time, right? So let's move on. That's a good question. From Deborah M. Prayers, Shalom family. Can you explain 2nd Esdras chapter 14, verses 9 through 12. Let's deal with it. Right? Can you explain 2nd Esdras chapter 14, 9 through 12? Right? This 2nd Esdras chapter 14 and verse 9. It reads, "For thou shalt be taken away from all, and from henceforth thou shalt remain with my son, and with such as be like thee, until the times be ended." So that's talking about Ezra. The Lord has particular lots for certain people. The Lord told Ezra, hey, you're going to be up here with me until the times be ended, meaning until you come back on the earth in the last days. Right? That's why Ezra, he said, woe is me who will deliver me in those days. You have certain men, whoever these men are, the Most High can keep them up in the spirit world. He don't have to send them back on the earth, right, in their 3rd or 4th generation. The Most High can send them back in this generation. He can send them back in the 6th, the 7th. The Most High can do what he want to do. That's why he told Ezra, and that's a heavy lot. It says, for thou shalt be taken away from all, meaning you'll give up the ghost, and from henceforth thou shalt remain with my son, meaning you'll be up there in the spirit world. Well, Yahweh Shah, right? And with such as be like thee, meaning there are other men of the elect who automatically, they're not obligated to come on the earth in their 3rd or 4th generation. The Lord can send them back anytime he chooses, at his will. But you have certain men that are going to come back in the end days. You know? That's why it tells you, and with such as be like thee, until the times be ended. Right? So these men are going to be back on the earth in these days. They may not have been here 700 years ago, but the Lord is going to have them back on the earth. They was up there with Yahweh Shah and other members of the elect. And they didn't have to go through. That's what the Lord told Esdras. He had a paradise laid up for them. Right? They didn't have to always come back on the earth and live out this hell. Not everybody has to experience that, man. Everybody has a different lot. The Lord even told Daniel, go thy way and stand in thy lot until the times be ended. Right? I want to get this in 2nd Esdras chapter 8 real quick. Right? This 2nd Esdras chapter 8 and verse 48. Right? This 2nd Esdras chapter 8 and verse 48. It reads, and this also, thou art marvelous before the Most High, and that thou hast humbled thyself as it becometh thee, and hast not judged thyself worthy to be much glorified among the righteous. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. But understand thou for thyself, and seek out the glory of such as be like thee. For unto you is paradise opened, the tree of life. The Lord told Ezra, a paradise is open for you, man. The tree of life is planted. The time to come is prepared. Plenteousness is made ready. A city is builded, and rest is allowed. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. The root of evil is sealed up from you, and weakness in the moth is hid from you, and corruption has fled into hell to be forgotten. So the Lord told Ezra, hey, guess what? You made it already, right? You know, you don't have to worry about being destroyed. You don't have to worry about being put to death. But when Ezra still saw the visions, his flesh kind of took over and said, well, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? Because although the Most High can still tell you stuff and give you visions and dreams about you being delivered, your flesh in due time is still going to take over. You know, that's why even John the Baptist, when John the Baptist was in prison in Matthew the 11th chapter and Matthew the 14th chapter, and he said, art thou he that should come, or should we look for another? This after he saw the chariot come over Yahweh Shah, and after he baptized him, he even said, art thou he that should come, or should he look for another? Why would John the Baptist say that? After he already saw Yahweh Shah and baptized him and saw the Holy Spirit like a dove descending. Because even righteous men, they get weak in the faith. There was no reason for him to ask, is Yahweh Shah, pretty much said, are you really the Most High? I mean, are you really the Son of the Most High? After he already baptized him. Because sometimes the flesh take over. Right? But let's read on in 2nd Esdras 14. Right? 14, 9 through 12. Right? But 9 is deep within itself. Right? This 2nd Esdras chapter 14 and verse 10. For the world hath lost his youth, and the times begin to wax old. Yeah, the earth is getting old, man. Earth is like an old woman slowly decaying. All right, you see the earth corrupt. It's earthquakes more than ever before. The damn weather is all messed up. The animals are you have homosexual animals, right? You have homosexual lions, penguins. The earth is just defiled. The birds are falling out of the sky at a phenomenal rate. The beaches are being damn defiled by dead whales and creatures who can't take the pollution that the so-called white man put in the water, and they rather kill themselves to dwell in that filthy, polluted land or water. So the earth is defiled, man. Right? The rocks aren't how they used to be. Trees aren't as tall as they used to be. The fruit isn't as big as it used to be. Everything is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And even man's mind and our ability to be subject to sin is becoming more and more and more and more in the last days. You know? Verse 11, for the world is divided into 12 parts. It reads, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part. So the Lord divided the age of man, right? The age of man to rule prior to Yahushua returning, it's as if you're looking at an analog clock. You got the 12, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then by the time, as if you're looking at a clock, by the time it went to Esdras or Ezra, right? By the time it went to Ezra, it was well past 10 o'clock. And that's around 457 BC, 460, anywhere between 460 to 444 BC, right? So within that 15 or odd years, it was already, and that's almost 2,500 years ago. Around 2,500 years ago, guess what? It was past 10 o'clock for your doomsday clock, right? Now, verse 12, and there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part. So that's the period of time that you're living in, right? Now, which means all hell is about to break loose. That's pretty much what it's saying. All right. Next question. From Itzeli, how could people conspire against the king and kill him? Well, I'm not sure what you're asking right there. All right, Jay Pipes, can you break down Matthew 15? We'll have to do an entirely different code cut. Just break it down to 15th chapter. If there's a specific verse in that chapter, a point that you want to touch on, and we'll touch on it. But this is a rapid fire Q&A, right? Which is the exact opposite of doing an in-depth breakdown on an entire chapter. So just pinpoint a specific verse, or a point that you want to talk about in that chapter. We'll kind of get into it. Judah Israel, can you break down Malachi 3 and 8? All right, let's deal with it. All right, let's go to the book of Malachi, chapter 3 and verse 8. It reads, will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me, but ye say, wherein have they robbed thee? And tithes and offerings. So this is a verse that Christians use all the time. Mainly your nasty, child molesting, money hungry, tax collecting, binge driving, Jaguar pushing, adulterous, fornicating, old creepy, old sellout, old coon pastor is going to bring out to manipulate the congregation when they're not bringing in enough money for the collection plate. That's not really going to his pocket. That's really going to his pocket. He'll pull a scripture to make you feel bad for not donating that $50 bill when you know you had it, right? When you put that dollar in, a lot of them wicked, nasty, creepy pastors, and they know your financial status, man. They know about your pension plan, right? They know about you, them older people. They know how to manipulate them and get that Social Security. They get that monthly check. You got people on disability. The pastor know, aren't you on disability? You could give more, right? Don't be handicapped. You can be handicapped in your wheelchair, but don't be handicapped giving the tithes. They'll say stuff like that, man. They don't know if you work 80 hours. They're clocking you, man. They're looking at what you drive. They're like any hustler. They can mark anybody that's green, anybody that can be a victim. They prey on people like that. They looking at who's giving and who's not giving. And they're going to corrupt the words of the Most High. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. Right? Before we actually go into that, let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 17. Let's get a quick precept on that. Right? This 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 17. For we are not as many which corrupt the word of God, but as of sincerity, but as of the Most High, and the sight of the Most High, speak we in Hamashiach. So we're not as many as corrupt the word of the Lord, right? Like pastors, where they corrupt the word and defile it and use it for their own advantage. We're going to speak it in sincerity. Now, the general context is not talking about a collection plate being passed around. A man robbing God is mentioned all throughout this chapter. And I'm going to sum it up. Then I'm going to go to Nehemiah. Then I'm going to go early in Malachi. The Israelites are required to pay tithes to the Most High, right? And give the Most High certain sacrifices. Robbing the Most High is keeping it for yourself and giving the Most High the poor of the sacrifice with the blemish. They may be blind, they may be lame. And also robbing the Most High is you're supposed to give 10%, but you really give them 9%. That's evil, man. You're supposed to give the Most High tithes, and instead of them giving them 10% of your increase, you only give them 4%, and you think the Most High don't know. You sat there and you got your first fruits, you got your increase, you cut it all up. You say, okay, look, I got my 10% right here, but I'm gonna cut the Most High short. I'm gonna cut the Most High his 4%. He can have that, but I'm gonna keep the 6%. That's robbing the Lord, man. Right? And that happened in the book of Acts, the 5th chapter. All right. Then I'm gonna go back to Nehemiah. Then I'm gonna go early in Malachi. Right? That's robbing the Most High. Right? Let's go to Acts chapter 5 and deal with it. Right? This is the book of Acts, chapter 5 and verse 1. Right? Acts chapter 5 and 1. It reads, but a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession. So they sold a possession. Now the possession is supposed to go to the apostles, which are the men of the Lord, right? And kept back part of the price. So they're stealing. Because this belongs to Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua at the end of the day. Because whatever Peter and the apostles bound on the earth is bound in heaven. Whatever they loose on the earth is loosed in heaven. So they had to decree, right? We're all going to have this, for lack of better terms, this game plan, but we're going to sell what we have and distribute it equally amongst everybody. You know, it says, and kept back part of the price, and his wife also being private to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. So they kind of lied to the apostles, right? But Peter said, Ananias, why hath Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and to keep back part of the price of the land? While it remained, was it not thine own? And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. So when you not giving that tithe or that offering in the ancient world, that's not for man. That's not for the priest. That's for the Most High. You're robbing the Lord. You know. Now this wasn't necessarily tithes, but it's the same spirit. It reads in verse 5, Acts 5 and 5. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the ghost. And great fear came on all of them that heard these things. See that? So they robbed the Most High by keeping back a portion of what they were supposed to give. Right? So let's get another precept. This is the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13 and 9. Right? Let's get another precept on robbing the Most High. Right? Nehemiah 13 and 9. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers. And thither brought I again the vessels of the house of the Most High, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, because they was robbing the Most High. They were supposed to give the portions and the tithes and a particular amount to the Levites. But Nehemiah kind of said something ain't adding up. They're not giving a portion to the Levites, right? It reads, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field. See that? So pretty much Nehemiah had to set up treasurers because men was robbing the Most High, and tithes and offerings. All right, next question. From Will We Rule. Do you think it's going to be a big awakening where a lot of people come to the truth where it could kick off Jacob's trouble? Well, you're living in a great awakening. This is the great awakening right now, right? When you're waking up, coming back to the Most High. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 7, right? This is it. This is it, right? This is 2nd Esdras chapter 7. This is the great awakening, man. 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse 20. I'll just go to 30, right? 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and 30. And the world shall be turned into the old silence 7 days, like as in the former judgments, so that no man shall remain, right? Meaning there was a time when the truth wasn't manifest after the generation of Yahushua, and then you had the time period when it was darkness, right? People may have known that they were Israel, but the spirit of Yahushua was yet to proceed on the earth. But let's read on. 2nd Esdras 7 and 31. And after 7 days, meaning after a certain dispensation of time, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up. So this is the great awakening, where everybody's being raised up. And that shall die that is corrupt, right? So the Most High is waking us up in the last days. Let's go to Baruch chapter 2 and 29, right? It's the book of Baruch chapter 2 and 29. It's like, bear with me, right? Another precept for the great awakening. And that's one of the most significant prophecies. You know, we talk about World War III, what's going on in Afghanistan, the poisoning trying to inject in your body, the seditions and revelings amongst the nations and the commotions. But the major prophecy are the Israelites waking up, coming out of the world, putting down the blunt, women putting on the dress, putting on a hair wrap, repenting, wailing, crying upon, and calling upon the Most High, right? And coming out of the world. That's one of the greatest signs of the last days, right? And this lets you know you're living in a great awakening, right? This is Baruch chapter 2 and verse 29. It reads, if ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, right? It says what? But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves and shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I will give them a heart and ears to hear. So that's a major prophecy. The Lord has given us a heart, meaning a mind, and ears to hear, meaning come back to the Most High. So you're living in the time period of the Great Awakening, which is going to lead to Jacob's trouble. That's why Matthew 24 and 14 says what? Right, let's get a precept on that. Right, this Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So the end is going to come after the gospel is preached for a witness unto all nations, after the Great Awakening, then Jacob's trouble is going to come. All right, next question from Crown Blue Royal. Also, I wanted to know if my reasoning on why we don't celebrate birthdays was sound. I will use Leviticus 18 and 3 to explain why I don't do that which Pharaoh did in Genesis 40 and 20, which is birthdays king. And that's sound. That's sound, right? Because when you read that account, Pharaoh celebrated his birthday. Leviticus 18 and 3 says, after the doings of the land of Egypt and the doings of the land of Canaan where you dwell, shall you not do. So that's sound right there. Okay, from Nightmare, where some of the Levites, the ones who left with the tribes who were taken captive by the Assyrians. It's not mentioned really how many Levites actually went down, but we know those that functioned in the priesthood office went down. And I'm kind of moving quick for sake of time. Do it matter to have a house or an apartment? No, it don't matter, right? And the Lord said a mean cottage is better than delicate fares in another, better than delicate fares in another man's house. How could the natives keep the commandments if they can't grow beards? Yeah, they can grow beards. I've seen them grow beards all the time, right? You got a lot of Judites that can't grow beards. Just because you can't grow a beard doesn't mean that you're going to be destroyed, right? You have certain brothers that just can't do it, you know? Moses, Esdras, and Jeremiah, prophets from the tribe of Levi. That's right. From Nahshon ben Yisrael, Salakia, in the book of Daniel, when it talks about the statue with the gold, silver, brass, and iron body, is America the toes mixed with clay, and how so if it is true? So let's go to Daniel chapter 2, right? Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and deal with this statue, right? This Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40. Man, this whole chapter is good, right? I may do a cold cut just going into this chapter, but we kind of went into it before, right? But for sake of time, we'll go through it briefly, not as in depth as I would like to go, right? Seeing that we're pressed for time, but we'll cover it on a surface level, may dive a little deeper. So when you read this account, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about a particular statue in the image. Now you had a head of gold, which represents the Babylonian Empire, who reigned from around 626 to 539 BC, starting with Nebuchadnezzar all the way down to Nabonidus. You had the Medo-Persian Empire, right, from Cyrus the Great all the way down to Darius III, right, from around 550 to 331 BC. They represent the arms and chest of silver. Then you had the thighs and belly of brass, which represents the Greeks, right? The thighs and belly and brass are the Greeks, from Alexander the Great all the way down to the Achaean League that fell in the Macedonian Wars in 146 BC, right? Then you have the Roman Empire, which are the legs of iron, right? Which scholars would say 27 BC, which I like to argue that, but they'll give you 27 BC to around 476 AD with the fall of pagan Rome, or what you call the Western Roman Empire. So those are your different parts of the statue that you'll read, right? And let's read that in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 38, right? Daniel chapter 2 and 38. It reads, "And whereas the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold." So Nebuchadnezzar represents the head of gold. Now, like I said, if you want an in-depth breakdown of Daniel's second chapter, just go on the main channel, Watching for Israel, and type in Hidden Mysteries in Daniel. We did different volumes. We did the first chapter, the second chapter, the third chapter, the fourth chapter. I believe we went to the fifth chapter. I can't remember how many chapters we went into, but we covered a lot. We have a series called The Hidden Mysteries in Daniel, right? But the Babylonians, they represent the head of gold due to the sovereignty and godlike status that Nebuchadnezzar had, that gold-like status. But gold is inferior to silver. Silver is a stronger metal. That's why the silver, which are the Medes and Persians, were able to take down the gold, which were what? The Babylonians. All right? But also silver, although it's a stronger metal, it's less valuable because the sovereignty and the power and rulership of the king has been diminished, because the Medo-Persian Empire had pretty much a law of the Medes and Persians where you had men that could check the king and say, hey, look, you can't alter what you said. And he was bound by his words, right? And they also had a tolerant society and a tolerant government where you were allowed to worship your own God. But during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, guess what, man? He was God, right? So these are just, it goes in depth, but like I said, I'm just summing it up, keeping it short. Then you have the Greeks, which represent the thigh and belly of brass that we just read about. Brass is a stronger metal than silver. That's why the Greeks took down the Medes and the Persians, which were the silver, right, at the Battle of Gaugamela around 331 BC. But brass is inferior to silver because the sovereignty and rulership of the Greeks was diminished. They even went so far to take power out of the king and out of the ruler and give it to the people. And they came up with a democratic philosophy where they gave power to people to be able to delegate and make decisions. And they had city-states. So they were divided. They were weak. They were brass, right? The political structure was devalued. Then you have the legs of iron, which are the Romans. Now, iron is stronger than brass. That's why the Roman Republic defeated the Greeks in the Achaean League in the Fourth Macedonian War. Why? Because iron is stronger as a metal than brass. But iron is less value on a political level because the Romans had a republic, they had a senate, they had political classes, plebeians, patricians, they had all these different factions, they had the assembly, all of this madness going on where the power was taken completely out of a king, given to councils, two councils, and the senate could influence the council, and the Praetorian Guard can overthrow them. It was madness, complete madness, right? But to get to the point that when you get down to the toes mixed with clay, let's read that in Daniel 2:43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, that represents the time you're living in now. The iron mixed with miry clay are the 10 toes. The 10 toes represents the European Union, but they also have an allegiance to the beast. So it's dealing with at the time of America and the European Union, which is modern day Rome. America and the European Union is your modern day Roman Empire, right? That's why it's partly iron, because it still has that same spirit of ancient Rome, that same power, right? But it's part clay too, because they'll try to fix and mingle themselves with the seed of men, but the Lord's going to break them up and divide them, you know? It reads, as Daniel 2:43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay, because they're going to be divided. The EU is going to separate from America. The other nations are going to break off from the Western powers, and they're going to want to destroy them, like the nations of the dragons of Arabia, the kings of the East. And in the days of these kings, which are the days you're living in now, the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Right? So again, you ask this, the European Union, it's like your Daniel 2, is America the toes mixed with clay, and how is it if it's so? We just broke that down that those 10 toes are the European Union with an allegiance to America, right? It's not just America within itself, right? That's why you have 10 horns, 10 toes, same thing, right? Let's go to the book of Revelation chapter 17. Let's get another precept on that. Right, this Revelation chapter 17 and 17. For the Most High have put in their hearts, which are the 10 horns or the 10 toes, to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So they're giving their kingdom to the beast until things are fulfilled. That's why you have something called NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the EU, right? So next question from David DeMello, Shalom. Revelation 7:9 says, a multitude cannot be numbered. This is separate from the 144,000. It's this multitude, the 1/3. Well, brothers have to remember that it's divided. You have the 2/3 and you have the 1/3. The 144,000, right? The 144,000, they're part of the 1/3. All right, they're part of the 1/3. It's not like they're their own separate class. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, right? And we're going to kind of do what they call the pie chart, right? So we get this right, right? So these are your 2/3, right? And this is your 1/3. Now within that 1/3, right, which is this dark line, and I'm gonna show you, that is your 144,000. Now this is the best I can come up with on the fly, right? This is the best I came up with, right? It might be backwards, but you get it. This is the 2/3. That's the 1/3. But within that 1/3 is the 144,000. That's how it works. So it's not like the 144,000 are separate from the 1/3. They're part of the 1/3, but they're the highlighted part. They're the ruling class of the 1/3, right? So let's go to Revelation 7:9 to answer the brother question. Let's deal with it. Right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 7 and verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. See that? So that's showing you plainly that you're going to have a great multitude, but it's going to be separate from the 144,000, which is the rest of the 1/3. But the 144,000 is part of the 1/3. All right, from Jizzle Mo. Because we got to get these Hebrew names. Got to get a Hebrew name, right? Jizzle Mo, you got to get a Hebrew name, right? What was the purpose of the Most High challenging Job when he just wanted to know why was he going through so much pain? Well, we'll have to read the whole book of Job. The Most High didn't challenge Job, right? That's not what happened, right? That never happened in the book of Job. You know, the Most High didn't challenge Job to do anything. The Most High set that thing up from of old. Let's actually read it. Right, let's go to Job, the first chapter. Right, let's go to Job, the first chapter. Right, so this is Job chapter 1 and verse 6. Outside of 6. Job chapter 1 and 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So there's a particular, and this isn't just this time. Like I always say, this happens all the time. Right? There's a set time every day when every angel has to present themselves before the Lord. Who else has to come among them? Satan, he got to check in too. He can't be late, not that he will be late. He can't be early, not that he will be early. He's appearing the same time before all of the angels. And this conversation that we're about to read happens every day with every one of us. And Job is like a representation of the elect. You understand? It reads, and the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Meaning, where are you coming from? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down in it. And he was going to and fro, putting spirits on people, causing confusion and death and lies and rape and extortion and slander and backbiting and homosexuality and all manner of abortions and evil. That's what Satan does when he's going to and fro through the earth. He's not handing out lollipops and patting you in the back and saying, Kwame Yashab, right? He's doing the exact opposite. So the Lord, it's like in Job 1 and 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, and one that feareth the Most High, and escheweth evil. We said, hey, look, check out my servant Job. He's on fire, right? Then Satan answered the Lord and said to Job, doth Job fear God for naught? Meaning, he's only fearing you because you take care of him. Hath not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he had on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he had, and he will curse thee to thy face. So Satan said, and well, look, my position is Job and man in general, you know, they'll serve the Most High when they're on top. But when they catching hell, they're never going to serve the Lord like they were when they up top. And brothers, you deal with that, man, right? You really, like I brought up before Satan interrupted the code cut I was doing earlier, a lot of brothers only pray when things are going well. When you're prospering, you understand, when you might have just got that job, or you know, you might have had a so-called good day in captivity, whatever, man. You know, you might have found $30 in your pants. You was about to wash the clothes, but then you found $30, and you know, right? A lot of people, you pray to the Most High when things are going well, but when things aren't going well, you tend to distance yourself from Yahweh Shai and the concept of prayer and fasting. So Satan kind of knows that about man. That's why he had that say, hey, look, if you touch Job, if you take away everything that he loves, everything that he cares about, everything that he possesses and his great wealth, he's going to curse you to your face. Right? And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, and let me say this, hey, this conversation happens every day. The Lord said to Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? Now, that name can be replaced with anybody. Hast thou considered my servant so-and-so? Hast thou considered my servant you? Hast thou considered my servant him? Hast thou considered my servant her? She fears the Most High. He loves the Lord. She keeps the commandments. He is on fire. And then Satan says, hey, well, look, I got something for him, right? Let me put him in a particular situation and get them out the spirit, and they're going to sin against you. And if you sin, Satan won that bet, and Satan has an advantage over you. But if you don't, you convict him to his face, and the Most High is going to magnify you. You know, and we'll read. You know, you'll read the book of Job. Like I said, it's not the fact that Job challenged. I mean, the Most High challenged Job. Right. This is pretty much on a spiritual level a trial. Job is being put on trial. The angels are watching. The Most High is watching. Yahweh Shah is watching. Michael, Uriel. The Lord didn't send Uriel to Job to answer any question. He didn't send Raphael to heal Job. Gabriel to strengthen him and show him what was going on. He's on trial, and everybody's watching from the spirit world to see if he's going to F up or if he's going to, for lack of better terms, maintain his integrity. And this happens to us every day. That's why I tell you in 1 Corinthians, the Lord said that we're made a spectacle into the world to angels and to men. You know, the spectacle is that's like being put on show. It's like a live performance. Every day is a live performance for all of the host of angels watching you and Satan, and everybody's going to see if you're going to go off or if you're not going to go off. Job chapter 1 and 11. Let's read 11 again. But this was Satan told the Most High. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. Right? And then you'll read the rest of the book of Job. Hey, but Job is heavy, man. Job is heavy. That's a powerful book through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah. But with that, I'm going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh Shema Mashiach Kwamalak Yahushua. If I didn't get to your question, stay tuned for the next Q&A. Most High willing, we'll be doing another Q&A tomorrow for the Sabbath service, starting around 11:30, right? So if I didn't get to your question, hop on that Sabbath service around 11:30 to 11, anywhere between 11:30 and 11:45. We're going to start for that Sabbath service and get in there and ask your question, or you can hit up the email, or you can wait to the next Q&A, or you can hit me up via Instagram, and we'll get to your question, Most High willing, as soon as possible. Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. A beautiful Sabbath day, giving our honor and glory to Yahweh Shema Shai. I may go live right after this, right? We'll see through the spirit and power of Most High. Most High will use edified. Kwam Yasha. Shalom.